I would like to highlight two suggestions of what I feel look like very good price transactions. These would be gems that I would consider buying even for myself. Hello everybody, welcome to Swee Yong Answers Part 1. If you like to follow us in this series of videos, please click subscribe to this YouTube channel. Please also click like on this video and add your comments, if any, at the bottom. There were a few questions that subscribers submitted to us in the last 2 months, and we have selected a few to be answered today. So here goes. Hi Swee Yong, given the current crisis, what could be the reasons that the property market remains resilient? Are Singaporeans really earning so much that 1.7k PSF for OCR new launch has become the acceptable new norm? OCR of course refers to outside central region, and $1,700 per square foot for outside central region as an average price, not even at the peak price, is being seen a lot more frequently in the last 2 years. And the question follows with MAS has been calling for property buyers to be prudent, but they do not really elaborate on the benchmark. I find taking on a 4 to 5k loan a month on a 15k salary excessive. Am I being overly prudent? So in this part, I will first tackle the first question, which is what could be the reasons that the property market remains resilient? So the private residential property index in the last 2 quarters, even within the COVID crisis, has actually turned up. So once we were out of circuit breaker in July, August, many developers rushed to launch, and the big advertisements, the property agents coming back out to work, all the heavy advertising and promotions, together with, of course, great incentives provided by developers in terms of commissions and in terms of sales targets, that has pushed the whole industry to work very hard to find buyers to bring to all the new launches. So the private residential property price index is composed of course, all the new sales as well as the resale. The resale market itself, I would still say, is pretty slow and in the doldrums. The number of units transacted hasn't been sufficient to match up with new launch transactions. New launches have contributed probably quite a lot more to the private property price index, and therefore you are seeing firstly the volume of new sales plus the higher prices demanded by developers in the new sales have pushed the index up. So it gives a sense that the whole market is rising, but in actual fact the market is probably split into new products versus old. And in the new sales, the prices can maintain at the high levels, partly because of very strong advertising and promotions, partly because the property agents like us have been incentivized to bring clients through higher commissions and through additional sales promotions and gimmicks. So a very good article explained this in the public housing segment, was done by Mr. Carl Leong from 99.co. He did up the research, and the article stated that the $1 million HDB flats are hiding a worrying resale price trend. In the HDB situation, it is similar, that the index has also been going up, but it is actually due to a lot of relatively new 5 to 10 year old HDB flats that have been transacted at very high prices, especially those that are in the good locations in the mature estates. They are maybe not only just 5 to 10 years old, they are also built to much higher levels, such as 40 stories at Commonwealth, instead of the 10 to 20 stories that are the older flats. So these transactions are all crossing $1 million. There have been over 80 transactions last year that have crossed $1 million, and these are lifting up the HDB resale index when the older flats within the same HDB towns are in fact still dropping or struggling to increase in price. So he gave a few examples, one of which is, for example, in Clementi, where the older flats in the different precincts, actually prices are still trending down or struggling to move up. The prices of the cluster called Casa Clementi, after the lockdown, resales started to be brisk again, and this cluster has seen prices still trending up. There are people who are, for example, retirees and downgraders. There are very young buyers with good careers, and they are very confident about their income outlook for the next few years. These people who have lower need for loans, as well as a lot more cash and CPF to be able to pay the upfront payment, they are buying these new, relatively new HDBs that have come out of their 5-year minimum occupation period, and they are paying top prices for it. So there is a disjoint in the market where newer products are setting new record high prices, but the older HDB flats are struggling to see a price increase due to the age and due to the lease depreciation. So same for the private residential market. The public housing market index seems to be trending up, but it is a split market. So you have got to read beyond the headlines and read beyond the news to be able to understand why the market is behaving this way. So the same subscriber, thank you very much, he also then went on to ask this second part of the question, that if he and his wife have a monthly combined salary of about $15,000, would it be considered a little bit too much to take on mortgage repayment that requires $4,000 to $5,000? Is he being overly prudent? Well, the benchmark set by our central bank is about 30-35% of your monthly income can be used to pay off your housing loan. But of course, it differs from family to family. My answer would be, you could be overly prudent, but we are unsure how to give you a specific answer to your question, because you have to take into account your other family expenses. For example, for a couple with no children, and if the couple decided not to have children for a few more years, then perhaps $4,000 to $5,000 a month of mortgage payments based on the $15,000 income would be a good number, because the other 60%, or about $10,000 of the income, would be applied to family expenses, and you could probably still have another $1,000 or $2,000 savings per month that can go towards your financial investments. But for 15K combined income for a couple that has 2 or 3 children, then using 4 to 5K of that 15,000 income to pay for the mortgages, with having 2 or 3 children who are growing up, needing money for expenses for school, as well as tuition and enrichment classes, I think then that would be stretching it a lot. So even if the buyer were to pay using the CPF ordinary account, contributing to the 4 to 5K a month of mortgage payments, I think that would still be stretching it, because the retirement adequacy about 20 or 30 years down the road, that retirement adequacy could be compromised, because while you are young, you are withdrawing too much of your CPF OA to be put into your property, and you are not building up sufficient CPF together with the 2.5% that the CPF would be paying you every year. You're not accumulating enough for your retirement. Now, we have also other subscribers who have asked similar questions around what could be a good stock to pick up, given that there is COVID now, there's a little bit of a recession, jobs are uncertain, and so some investors waiting on the sidelines are keen to find out where they might be able to pick up some good properties. What would I consider to be a gem? Many of us are interested to get in now because of possibly also to take advantage of the low interest rate scenario. So if there are opportunities, there are good bargains to be found, where would you be able to find it? My recommendation overall is still to focus on freehold properties in District 9, 10, 11. Freehold in D9, 10, 11 firstly is very defensive, and there's no new supply, very little new supply of freehold, because when the government does a land sale, it is always 99 years of lease. The outside central region as well as the rest of central region, there's still quite a lot more land for the government to launch properties. For example, the giant Greater Southern Waterfront would see more than 20,000 units. But within District 9, 10, 11, especially a lot of private properties that are freehold in private hands, the upcoming stock in the next 20 years would be very limited. And so there is some defensive qualities about freehold and District 9, 10, 11. I would like to highlight two suggestions of what I feel look like very good price transactions. These would be gems that I would consider buying even for myself. Okay, I have two examples to highlight to you as to what is good value and what might be gems. So let's first look at this map. You would see Orchard Road highlighted in yellow, and on the northwest part of Orchard Road, I've highlighted the Orion as well as Nasim Jade. Now, Nasim Jade was transacted recently in November 2020 at 2,323 per square foot. And then the Orion transacted just over a year ago at $2,004 per square foot. Now, we know that within the last 2 years, prior to COVID and even during COVID, there have been properties in Cascaden Road, there have been properties in Nasim Road, Ardmore Park, that have transacted at well above $3,000 per square foot and even into $4,000 per square foot. So these two transactions, both freehold properties, both good quality, well built, and at the edge of Orchard Road, and surrounded by transactions that have crossed 4,000 per square foot. This would be what I would consider gems and good picks. But of course, I can't be more specific about your situation because the questions asked have been a little bit generic, without sufficient information about your background, which stages of life you are in, what is your budget and your investment objectives. I'm unable to give you a more precise recommendation and how you might consider certain apartments to purchase rather than consider something else. But I would still say focus on District 9, 10, 11, focus on freehold. Outside central region and rest of central region, those properties, leave it to the other investors to make money from. Well, many of you have asked what age, location and size of condo in District 9, 10, 11 I would recommend, and how I would see opportunities or bargain prices and how I would be doing my stock pick. But without knowing sufficiently about your background, what stages of life you are in, what is your budget, what are your investment objectives, I'm really unable to give more precise recommendations for you to consider. But if you like this content and you and your family would like to know more about how you can plan your next steps and choose your investments, please drop me a note and we can have a Zoom chat. My team and I look forward to be serving you as your buyer's representative. Alternatively, you might be interested to consider a 1.5-hour course that I have developed together with HutaLearners.com, and you can find them in the link here. See you again for the next installment of Swee Yong Answers.